With Supreme Darkness being released in the TCG, as well as many meta warping cards being included in this set, it's time to go over the top 10 cards you need from Supreme Darkness. And now, the primary cards players are excited about out of Supreme Darkness, especially now that it's an Ultra, is none other than Primite Dragon Ether Barrel. And now, the Primite Dragon has been causing all sorts of hype over in the OCG and following suit here in the TCG as well. And that is because whenever it is normal summoned, you are able to set any Primite spell or trap directly from the deck. But with its following effects, while it's on the board, you can actually tribute it to send a vanilla monster from your deck to your graveyard. And then, if you have a normal monster on the field or in the grave, you can actually return the Ether Barrel from the graveyard directly to your hand. So you can keep recurring this card every single turn. And that is why we've been seeing that the Primite Blue Eyes has actually been taking the meta by storm over in the OCG. And we are expected to be seeing the exact same thing here once Supreme Darkness is released. And yes, it is because of this card that we've been seeing the Primite Lordly Load has been spiking in price all over the board. Because when this card is summoned, not only can you set good cards like the Drill Beam, but you also do have the access directly to the Lordly Load, which as many players are familiar with, this is the beginning of all the amazing combos in Primite. So if you are playing Primite Blue Eyes, or any Primite variant at all, then you will definitely need your copies of the Primite Dragon Ether Barrel out of Supreme Darkness. And now the second card we're going to be getting into is an interesting Link 4 monster, and that is yugioh, the Lightless Shadow. And forgive me if I butchered the name a little bit. But the Lightless Shadow is actually an extraordinary card in Supreme Darkness, and I do believe a lot of players need to be looking into this card because of its effects, especially Fiendsmith. And that's because during the main phase, as a quick effect, which is really good, by discarding one card, you can either destroy one card on the field, or you can banish it until the end phase, and if you do, you get to special summon one light or dark monster from your graveyard. So not only does this have a quick effect interruption, but it actually has a wind up rabbit kind of banish mechanic, alright? And then on top of that, it gets to revive a light or dark from the graveyard, which, yeah, it's kind of speaking chaos over here. But on top of that, that is not the end of the ability, because during your standby phase, you get to draw cards up to the number of monsters in your graveyard with different types, okay? And then you take the same number of cards from your hand after you drew and put that same number on the bottom of the deck in any order. So not only are they 2800 attack, but they have a quick effect pop, a quick effect save that revives any light or dark from the graveyard, and then on top of that, during your standby phase, you refresh your hand. That's insane. So the Lightless Shadow is easily one of the best cards in Supreme Darkness. These are just tier 1 effects, alright? So honestly, any players that are looking into the set, this is one of the cards that you definitely need to be picking up out of Supreme Darkness. But going into our third card, and this could potentially be even more broken than the last, is Twins of the Eclipse. And any players that have been kind of keeping up with the Supreme Darkness or some of the combos coming out of it will know Twins of the Eclipse is a card a lot of players are already assuming can get banned. It is a rank 4 that takes 2 level 4s. Hello, Ryziel. But the effects are what makes it broken, as always. For this Exceed summon, you can treat rank 4 monsters you control as level 4 monsters. You get to detach material from it. It can make it 2 attacks on monsters during that turn, which, you know, that's alright. But the broken effect, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target 2 other rank 4 or lower Exceed monsters in your graveyard, special summon one of the 2, and if you do, you attach the other to it. And now, do I know all the exact combos of this card? Absolutely not. I'm not going to lie to you. But we have been seeing in some research that there are like Ouroboros loops that you can keep hitting cards out of the hand. I know this is pretty much used in some of the newer Six Samurai stuff because you can loop the Kizans with the Bushidos, and a lot of that new Warrior stuff, including that new Synchro, looking pretty sweet. So Twins of the Eclipse has some loop ability, given that you can use the Exceed monsters to overlay into it, and then once it's sent to the graveyard, you can revive one of the Exceeds, attach the other one right to it, and then utilize that Exceed's effects. We can see where in the future this card could be a little broken, and that's why players are looking at Twins of the Eclipse as one of the prime choices to be picking up out of Supreme Darkness. And I ask the viewers out there, if you know any broken combos with this card or think it should be banned, definitely comment that down below, because I'm pretty sure a lot of players are interested in these spicy combos. And now, if you think redirecting a water supply to save a fish resulting in the destruction of a state is a good thing, this card's for you. Template Skipper is the newest Malice Tech Support. And that is because it is a level 1 Cybers monster that can special summon itself to a zone a Link Cybers monster points to, but it also has a really neat secondary effect, whereby banishing a Cybers monster from your hand or graveyard, looking at you, Malice. This card can be treated as Link material as the same name as the banished monster if you Link summon this turn. So not only are you able to special summon the Malice back, but Template Skipper will become a Malice monster itself. So if for some reason you need to utilize it and some other monsters that aren't Malice, you're still able to go into that Malice archetype. And now that is a lot of effect for what is seemingly looking like it's going to be a common out of the pack. So for the Malice players out there, Template Skipper might be one of your go-tos for the deck. And now for the Earth Machine fans out there, I got you. We have Clockwork Knight, one of the latest Link ones to be released to the TCG, and it's pretty nuts. And now you make it with one non-Link monster with 1,000 or less original attack, which is honestly easy to do. And now, if this card is Link summoned, you can send one continuous spell you control to the graveyard to add one Clockwork Knight from your deck to your hand. And then not only that, but by targeting a machine monster in your graveyard with 1,000 or less attack, by tributing another machine monster on your board, you're able to special summon that target from your graveyard in defense position. So honestly, this card is adding a lot of setup to some of these Earth Machine decks. Not only are you getting the Clockwork Knights, which in its own regard has a lot of utility with the machines. Hell, you can turn all your opponent's stuff into machines and Cyber Dragon off as well. But you're also having revival from your machines in the graveyard, and a lot of these machines, I'm going to be honest, are machine dupable. And now I don't know if a lot of players remember, the market watchers probably will, but the Clockwork Knight spell card did see an increase in price whenever this Link monster was announced a couple months back. And now I know it doesn't seem like much, but I do believe, especially with any more support that Konami gives us, that these Clockwork Knight / Earth Machine decks can actually pose quite the threat to the metagame in the near future. So if you're interested in any of that Earth Machine stuff, Clockwork Knight is definitely a card that you should be on the lookout for out of Supreme Darkness. And now, these next couple cards are kind of out of the same archetype, so we're going to be keeping them together, but we'll be starting with Elzet, the Azamina of the White Forest. And now, Elzet actually has a very good ability. By revealing her, you're able to special summon any White Forest or Azamina card directly from your hand, and then you can fusion summon one Azamina fusion monster by sending monsters on your hand or field to the graveyard. And then as expected, it does have a graveyard effect, because if it is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Sinful Spoil from your deck to your hand. So it has a free summon from hand, counts itself as a super poly effect if you're going for an Azamina card, and then if it's sent to the graveyard, you're able to add any Sinful Spoil. And for all these reasons, we're seeing that this card is easily a secret rare out of the set, and will be utilized in any of the White Forest decks, any of the Azamina decks, which honestly will take off after this set has released because of all the support it is getting. And honestly, the only thing that makes me sad about this card is you have to go into an Azamina fusion monster, because if you didn't, it would work perfectly with Snake Eyes Doomed Dragon. And now, Snake Eyes Doomed Dragon is a very interesting card out of this set, alright? It is a fusion, takes a Snake Eyes monster with any illusion monster as well. And since the Azamina we just spoke about was an illusion monster, it would have been perfect to go into this guy. I guess it would have been just too good, right? But it has to either be fusion summoned or special summoned by sending two face-up monsters from your spell and trap zone to the graveyard. And then if this card is special summoned, you can target one monster in the field, and you guessed it, put it in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. So not only is it able to be fusion summoned out normally, but if you have two of your monsters in your spell and trap zone just sitting there, and you just don't have any way to use them, now you can go into the Snake Eyes Doomed Dragon, and then immediately start putting monsters into the back row, especially on the ones on the opponent's board that are giving you some trouble. And honestly, with 3,000 attack, it's always a good choice. But moving on to the last of the Azamina support cards, we have Saint Azamina. And now it's a very interesting looking monster. 10 stars, 0 attack, 4,000 defense. It takes a level 6 or higher fusion monster plus a level 6 or higher synchro monster. And like I said, for this card, it would have been really nice if the Elzet could have fused into the dragon. You would have had a really smooth combo, but it still gets there. And now this is a lot of effect, okay? So your opponent cannot target this card, being the Saint Azamina, cards they control, and cards in their graveyard and banishment with card effects, okay? So that's your Azamina, your opponent's cards, anything in the graveyard or banished. So basically, you're cutting them off of everything except their hand. And then also, they take any battle damage that you would normally take. And then if that was not enough, if this card was fusion summoned this turn, as a quick effect, you can special summon one level 9 or lower Azamina monster from your deck or your extra deck. And that is where this card kind of pops off. So Saint Azamina, there are plenty of ways to be able to go into it, especially with the LZ cards and all the other support that we've been seeing. But if you look into some of the support that is coming out in the next core booster, you actually need Saint Azamina to be utilizing it. So if you're into the Sinful Spoils archetype, Whitewoods or Azamina, then definitely be picking up the Saint Azamina sooner than later, because once other support comes out to the archetype, you're going to realize that this card is needed. And all I want to say is if you're enjoying the content, drop that like. But getting to the card that a lot of players are kind of eyeballing me right now, like where's it out? We have Molcharmy Meows. And yes, this is the Molcharmy that lets you draw when your opponent summons from the graveyard or the banished. So the Malice players out there, we're looking at you. But Konami knew we needed the Max C's, and they knew the Max C's sells. So Molcharmy Meows is one of the main cards that players are on the hunt for out of Supreme Darkness. And just like all the other Molcharmies, once you add another one to the batch, each of the other ones gets a little better. The players out there looking at the Meows and being like, it's just not good as the other ones, maybe I won't use it. Get out of here. Get out of here. You're going to need this. Malice is a thing. Graveyard's a thing. And then we're eventually going to be moving to a zombie-esque format. So being able to draw per revise from grave or banish is really good. So the Molcharmy Meows is one of the obviously best cards to be picking up out of the Supreme Darkness, especially into the future meta games when you'll need it. But like we just said, we might be moving into a zombie meta game. And it might be a zombie trap metagame. That brings me to the last card on the list, and potentially the one I am personally most excited for, and that is Delta of Invitation. And now, Delta of Invitation is not a super blinged out card. Honestly, from the set we're looking at, I think it's a common. But ever since its release, players have realized Delta of Invitation is perfect for Eldritch. And that's because it is a field spell that when it is activated, you can send a level 5 or higher zombie directly from the deck to your graveyard. And then not only that, but if you already control a zombie monster, you can special summon one Delta token that is a level 5 dark zombie with 0/0 stats. That's pretty good. And then potentially the best effect is when a monster is added from your graveyard to your hand while Delta of Invitation is in your graveyard, you're actually able to add Delta directly to your hand. So if you're following the combo, you will realize you can actually activate Delta, send the Eldritch, use the Eldritch by sending Delta to go to your hand, special summon itself, and have the protection with the boost. But then Delta will activate in the graveyard, adding it back to your hand. So not only is it the perfect starter to get Eldritch in the graveyard, but once you have Invitation set up, it is a free Eldritch summon every single turn. And it's a +1, baby. And then if that's not enough, with the Delta tokens being dark, you're actually able to synchro summon into Chaos Angel with the Golden Land level 5 monsters and the Delta tokens. And then since the Golden Lands are lights and the Delta token is a dark, that Chaos Angel has full protection. So Eldritch is having an amazing starter, an amazing setup, just constant recursion, and then it allows the deck to go into powerful creatures like Chaos Angel. And this is why, honestly, Delta of Invitation is one of my all-time hyped cards that I am excited for out of Supreme Darkness. And honestly, if you're an Eldritch fan, you should be too. So with Delta of Invitation, future Eldritch support, honestly, there's nothing not to be really happy about. And we're seeing that Konami is moving us potentially into a future trap meta, which we're pretty excited about over here. And if you're interested in seeing how Konami is pushing us into a new age of trap cards, we're going to be having that video dropping soon. If you want to see other cards before they spike in price, check out those market watches. But as always, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.